You make good money, maybe even great money. So why do you still feel broke? Not broke in your bank account, broke in your soul. Like no matter how much you earn, it's never enough. That's not a budget problem. That's a philosophy problem. And 2,000 years ago, the richest, most powerful man in the world figured it out. Here's what nobody tells you about money. The anxiety doesn't stop when you get it. You thought making 6 figures would fix everything, but now you're worried about losing 6 figures. You thought financial security would bring peace, but now you're just terrified of going backwards. You compare yourself to people who make more. You track net worth obsessively. You optimize investments. You read personal finance Reddit at 2 a.m. You calculate how many years until retirement, constantly. And the strangest part? The people who make less than you seem happier. How is that possible? Because they didn't fall into the trap you're in. The trap that says, just a little more and then I'll be satisfied. Just the next raise. Just the next promotion. Just the next milestone. But there is no then. There's only more. And this isn't new. This isn't a capitalism problem or a hustle culture problem or a your generation problem. This is an ancient problem. And it had an ancient solution. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, Stoic philosopher, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote about this exact trap in his private journals. And what he discovered? It'll change how you see every dollar you ever earn. Let's set the scene. Rome, 161 AD. Marcus Aurelius becomes emperor. Not because he wanted it, he was a philosopher who preferred books to battlefields, but because duty demanded it. And suddenly, he controls everything. The largest empire in history, unimaginable wealth, absolute power, literal palaces, armies, gold, the works. If anyone should have been satisfied, it was him. But here's what he wrote in his private journal, a book we now call Meditations. It is not the man who has little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Wait, the emperor, the richest guy on the planet, is calling himself potentially poor? Because Marcus understood something most people never figure out. Wealth is not about what you have, it's about what you need. The Stoics, Marcus's philosophical school, divided everything into 2 categories. 1, things you control, your thoughts, your actions, your character, your responses. 2, things you don't control, everything else, including money, status, other people's opinions, market crashes, promotions, everything external. And here's the radical move. The Stoics argued that true wealth, real wealth, exists only in category 1. Because external wealth, it's fragile. It can be taken, lost, stolen, taxed, inflated away. One bad investment, one economic collapse, one illness, gone. But internal wealth, your ability to be content, your resilience, your wisdom, your character, that can't be taken from you. That's yours. Marcus wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. In your way of thinking. This isn't about being broke and pretending you're happy. This isn't money doesn't matter nonsense. Marcus had money. He understood its utility. But he also understood that if your happiness requires money, if your peace depends on the number in your account, you've made yourself dependent on something you can't control. And that's voluntary slavery. The hedonic treadmill, why more never works. Modern psychology has a term for this, the hedonic treadmill. When you get a raise, you feel great for about 3 months. Then your lifestyle inflates to match your income. Bigger apartment, nicer car, better restaurants. And suddenly, you need that income just to maintain the new baseline. So you chase the next raise, and the cycle repeats. You're running faster and faster just to feel the same level of satisfaction. Marcus saw this 2,000 years ago. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Translation? The problem isn't the money. It's your belief about what the money will do for you. You think it will buy security, but it won't, because you'll always imagine a scenario where you lose it. You think it will buy status, but it won't, because there's always someone with more. You think it will buy freedom, but it won't, because the more you have to protect. Marcus had infinite wealth, and he knew wealth without philosophy is just expensive anxiety. Okay, so if Marcus Aurelius were alive today, if he could see your bank account, your career, your financial anxiety, what would he tell you? He'd give you 3 principles, 3 rules that governed how he thought about wealth, despite having more of it than almost anyone in history. Principle 1. Enough is a decision, not a number. Marcus wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Here's what he meant. Most people never decide what enough is. They just chase the next milestone, the next comparison, the next status symbol. But if you never define enough, you'll never have enough. The goalpost will keep moving, forever. So Marcus's move? He decided. He said, "I have enough. Anything beyond this is excess. And excess doesn't make me richer. It makes me heavier." What if you did that? What if you looked at your life right now and said, this income, this lifestyle, this is enough. I'm going to stop running now. Not because you can't earn more, but because you're choosing to stop the treadmill. That's not poverty. That's mastery. Principle 2. Your wealth is your character, not your portfolio. Marcus was obsessed with virtue, justice, wisdom, courage, self-discipline. For him, these were the only things worth accumulating. Because here's the thing, you can lose money in a market crash. You can lose your job in a recession. You can lose your house in a disaster. But you can't lose your character unless you abandon it. Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." So the question isn't, how do I make more money? The question is, am I becoming a better person? Am I more disciplined, more generous, more wise? Because if you're a person of character, you'll always find a way to survive. You'll adapt, you'll persevere, you'll be resourceful. But if you're just a person with money, you're fragile. One bad break, and you're lost. Principle 3. Practice poverty to appreciate wealth. Okay, this one sounds weird, but stay with me. The Stoics had a practice called voluntary discomfort. Marcus would deliberately sleep on the floor sometimes, eat simple food, wear plain clothes. Not because he had to, he was the emperor, but to remind himself that he could survive without luxury. He wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness.'" He wasn't being pessimistic, he was preparing. He was reminding himself that comfort is temporary, that luxury is fragile, that he needed to be ready to lose it all and still be okay. So here's the modern application. Try living on less, deliberately. Cancel the subscriptions you don't use. Cook at home for a month. Take a cheap vacation. Drive the old car a little longer. Not because you're broke, because you're practicing. Because when you prove to yourself that you can be happy with less, you stop being a slave to more. You stop being afraid of losing it. Because you know, you've proven, that you'll be fine either way. And that's the ultimate wealth. Freedom from fear. The modern trap, when wealth becomes identity. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because modern culture doesn't just want you to have money, it wants you to be your money. Your net worth becomes your self-worth. Your salary becomes your identity. Your title becomes who you are. And Marcus saw this trap too. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." If you spend your whole life chasing financial milestones, you never actually live. You're always preparing for life, saving for life, optimizing for life. But life is now, and the amount in your account, it has nothing to do with whether you're alive. Marcus Aurelius had everything, and he knew. The wealth that matters isn't counted in gold. It's counted in moments, in presence, in character, in freedom from needing more. So, you want to get rich? Here's what Marcus Aurelius, the richest man in the world, would tell you. You already are, not because of your bank account, but because you have something no amount of money can buy. The ability to choose what you need. You can choose to need less, to want less, to be satisfied with what you have. And the moment you make that choice, you're free. Free from the treadmill, free from the comparison, free from the fear. Look, I'm not saying don't earn money. I'm not saying don't invest. I'm not saying live in poverty. I'm saying define enough and then stop. Stop chasing. Stop optimizing. Stop letting your bank account determine your worth. Because Marcus had infinite wealth, and he knew, he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. You don't need more money to be at peace. You need to be at peace with the money you have. And that's not something you earn. That's something you choose. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, one of the most powerful men who ever lived. And when they found his journals, his meditations, they discovered something surprising. He wasn't writing about his wealth, or his power, or his empire. He was writing about how to be a good person, how to handle difficulty, how to accept loss, how to be free from needing external validation, because he understood what most people never learn. True wealth is internal. It's not what you have, it's what you don't need. So if you're chasing wealth, stop, just for a moment, and ask yourself, what if I already have enough? What if I'm already rich? What if the only thing standing between me and peace is the belief that I need more? Marcus knew the answer, and maybe you do too. You're not poor because you don't have enough. You're poor because you think you don't. And that's the only poverty that matters.